Hmm. This is my first time trying this out, so. Hello, Andrea. Let's see. Andrea Knits. Is this the designer, Andrea, by chance? Hi there. How's it going? This is my first time periscoping, so I'm trying this out for the first time. How are you doing today? Oh, so this is the Andrea that scopes sometimes from her car? Is that who this is? Ah, I love watching it. You know what? You and I are in the same boat. The reason why I'm on so late tonight is because I have three kids myself and just got all of them. Well, I should say two of them in bed. My 10-year-old is up reading right now, but my 5-year-old was not wanting to go to bed. So so I laid down with him for a while, and then Mom took over, and so I'm downstairs right now. And I was, to be honest with you, this is one of those things where it's like I've been wanting to do a Periscope for a long time, just because I like the knitting community. I'm a knitter myself. Um, I like the online community that's been kind of created, and I thought, man, that would be really kind of fun to join in. But my nerves kind of get the best of me, and I just kind of was like, you know what, you got to do it. You just gotta jump in. So yeah, is that kind of how you, or are you pretty easy with it, easy going with it? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So, I saw that you have some, like you had a shawl out that was like, let's see. Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing with me too. Um, my youngest is 5. He just turned 5. I have my oldest is a girl. She's 10, and my middle child, he's 7, and my youngest child is 5. And that, we don't it's different being in a little bit in the older age range. I mean, we're not in the older age range, but the 5-year-old is still, he's the third child, so he's always got that competing kind of attitude, being the youngest child. And but he's also, I think, learned a lot from his siblings. So he seems, in some instances, he seems really mature, but in other instances, he also knows how to, uh, I'm trying to think the best way to put it, push buttons. And I mean that in the most sincerest, I mean, most dearest ways, because I love him dearly. But he's pretty witty in that realm. And so like tonight, when I was laying with him trying to put him to bed, he he knew Mom was eventually going to come in and lay with him too, and so he just basically for a half hour just laid there, and every once in a while he'd go, "Daddy, I want to give you a hug," and so the first hug goes by, and it's like, "Oh, thanks for the hug." The second hug is like, "Okay, thanks for the hug." The third hug, it's like, "Buddy, you need to get to sleep." The fifth hug, you're like, "Oh gosh, like this is." I know and you know what one side of me says, you know what, you just need to say good night and leave. We've kind of gotten him into this habit, and I don't know. We probably need to tackle it, to be honest with you. But you know what? You take one step at a time with things. With parenting, you know how that goes. So I'm guessing, especially since when I see you periscoping from the car, the first thing I think of is, oh my gosh, that's a true parent right there. So you want to see some knitting that I've done? My 4-year-old says, I'm scared all the time. I know, right? My 5-year-old he's doing that more now. And I don't know if it's because it's darker earlier I don't know. But at bedtime, he's doing the same thing. So, what's your oldest? How old's your oldest child? Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'll protect people from coming in the house. You just mind what's going on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh wow. So yeah. Oh my gosh, you have a 9-month-old. Well, so I love the infant age. One of the things. So I have two. My career wise, I have two. Uh, they're both the same career, but I have two employers. I'm a pediatric certified specialist in physical therapy. So, and the reason why I bring that up is because the infant age is like one of my favorite ages. Um, and then on the flip side, I'm also a faculty at a university, so where I teach the stuff. So, you want to see some of my knitting? I've got a couple things, and I figured, I was hoping that I'd get a knitter on here, and I'm so glad that I did. Right? Okay. So I'm doing a lot of Christmas knitting right now. Particularly every year I kind of pick something. Well, I shouldn't say every year. I've been knitting a little over a year. So last year I picked some different people I was going to knit for, and then this year I'm knitting for some different people. So kind of mix it up each time, but usually family. So this year, with talking with my wife, we were like, why don't you knit for my nieces and nephew? And so I'm doing hats for my nieces and nephew. And so this is the first one I did. And this is, let me see if I can get this up here. So this is, it's pretty standard, but, I'm trying to think, like a waffle style hat. And I looked online. I don't have a pom-pom maker. So these are the first pom-poms I've done. And so I looked online, and there was a tutorial on making a pom-pom from 2 pieces of cardboard. And for as much as I make pom-poms, it worked actually pretty well, I think. So what do you think of that? So then that's one hat. Another hat that I made is this hat. So I think I'm going to give this one to the oldest niece. She's 22. And then we're gonna like put it with like some a mug and some hot cocoa kind of thing. And then this hat here is for my other niece. And at this one, I oh gosh, I should memorize the patterns, but I don't remember the pattern of it. But it was a free pattern. And so this one though, I just took the stitch count because it's worsted weight. This is the Knit Picks Brava, their acrylic. And then I did the same 96 stitches round. But then what I ended up doing was I did every 7 rows I did a knit 2 purl 2, and I did 7 more rows, and then I switched it so that was purl 2 knit 2, and then back and forth like that. So it kind of created this kind of design of a hat. This is just something that I kind of came up with on the whim while I was knitting it, and then there's a pom-pom there as well. So. And for both these, I ended up just mixing some grays in with the main hat just to give it a little color. And so that's those 2. And then the third hat that I did is it's a slouchy hat for my nephew. And this is also Knit Picks Brava. I chose the Knit Picks Brava because first of all, I'd never knit with it before. You know how it is with getting addicted to some expensive yarns and such. And so that is, that's what I'm used to knitting with. But I thought, let me try some of this because I wanted to get something that was easy that was easy to wash, and easy to care for, because I don't know if my nieces and nephews are really going to want to take care of something wool that they have to hand wash and everything. And then also, one of the things too about the Knit Picks Brava is it's actually pretty soft. I mean, the acrylic, I do know the difference. I do feel the difference between like an acrylic yarn and for instance, a merino wool, but it's actually not bad for an acrylic yarn, and it's pretty expensive too. So, for gift giving for people that might not necessarily care whether it's wool or acrylic, this worked out pretty well. So this is the slouchy hat that I made for my nephew, and this is how I'll just put it on, because that minus the however slouchy hats are how they're supposed to be worn is kind of, I don't know, not much of a slouchy hat person, but so that's that. My nephew will like that. He's expecting his first kid actually in January, so I've got some knitting there to do too. Matter of fact, I'm working on some baby boots for him. I can't find that right now. Not for him, but for his soon-to-be kid. So And then I also did a pair of socks. This is a pair of socks I made for my stepdad. He's a Nebraska Huskers fan. It just, something to know about me. I'm actually from Iowa, and so my stepdad's from Nebraska, and he's a huge Nebraska fan. So what I did was let's go this way, and this is the Fish Lips Kiss heel. Is that I think I'm saying that right? And then this is Nitpicks Tonal, and then with a contrasting toe. I usually, when I do socks, I do toe up. That's kind of how I go. Do you knit socks, Andrea? Because you design, so you probably do a little bit of everything. I mean, because it kind of takes, quite a. Sometimes you do, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. The reason why I like toe up is because you get a general idea as to whether or not you're going to run out of yarn by the end. Um, I do have a scale, and I could weigh it out, but I started with this before I had the scale, and it's kind of more second nature to do a toe up sock now than it is. So I've actually never done a cuff down sock, to be honest with you. So that's some of my current knitting that I've got going on. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the stuff I just finished. I finished those within the past week. I am working on a new pair of socks, and this is actually for me, and it's for Christmas. It's just kind of a Christmas sock. But this is Plymouth Yarn's Happy Feet, and I just thought, I thought that would make a great Christmas sock. Literally, I just casted it on, so that's. I do magic loop with mine. I don't know if I'm getting that up there right. Let's see. So, I do magic loop one sock at a time. When I first started magic loop, I started trying with 2 socks at a time, and the yarn just kept. It was like impossible to keep it together. So I just went to 1 at a time. Oh yeah, see. DPNs, what I find is that there's so many transitions from one to the next, from one needle to the next, that it's almost like that slows, it's that many more transitions versus Magic Loop. I just have, transition on each side, right? But with my DPNs, when I've done DPNs, it's like I have to reset my hands and reset the string going around my finger. I typically knit continental style, so I have to reset it that way, and so just so many transitions. I haven't actually timed it, but I just thought it's going to slow me down. I think is what's going to happen. So I do magic loop as well. Do you end up having the string pulled from both ends then? Like, do you pull from the inside and the outside? Is that what you do when you do 2 socks at a time? Yeah, okay. I do. As you can tell, I do wind my yarn up into a hank, or I'm sorry, not a hank, a cake. But I don't pull from the center yarn because the way that I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but when you start taking yarn from the middle, it just collapses the core, and then by the time you get halfway through, it's just this really squishy kind of, cake, and with me, I'm such a traveler with it that just gets really messy for me. So I did try, it's kind of why I got the scale was I tried separating out into 2 50-gram skeins. But then the reality is I don't use all 50 grams for either sock, especially if I'm doing contrasting heel and toe. And then what ends up happening is I have 2, smaller balls of leftover yarn, which, might not be a bad thing for some, but I am not working on a sock blanket or anything like that where, I know that that's kind of the thing to do with that is to kind of put it into a sock blanket. Do you have a sock blanket yourself? Sock yarn blanket, or what do they call it? Something like that. Like yeah. Is it more hassle than it's worth with the I read the It took me a year to finish. Oh yeah. So it's like, did it take you a year because the amount of time it takes to knit each square, or did it take you a year um because you're waiting on the yarn? It's only baby size. Well, with a baby that's perfect though, right? Yeah, oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, you got sick of it. I could see that happening. Yeah. You know, I don't know any blanket. Yeah, if anything that you're working on that takes that long, who was I listening to? Do you listen to Mina, the knitting expert? Do you listen to her? Um, First of all, I love listening to her. It's 120 squares. Holy cow! Wow, and it's small for because you're talking about this size. Oh, so Mina is she's a podcaster, but video podcaster on YouTube. Um, and she's got a large following. I think she's got over 10,000. Um, let's see, yes, like 30-inch square. Okay, yeah. Um, she's got like 10, for knitting. That's pretty high. She's got 10,000 subscribers to her channel, and that's pretty high for a knitting YouTuber. And and she was talking about how um, she does some. Oh, she was doing a square blanket. She was actually doing squares too, but she was saying that gave her instant gratification. And the first thing I thought of with that was, with me and knitting, there is never instant gratification, because I mean the most instant gratification I can get with knitting is knitting a hat that takes 5 days. That's about the fastest it goes, because anytime I knit socks, when when it's the sole thing I'm working on, when it's like, okay, I'm only working on a sock, and only working on that during my time that I have available, it takes me. I could get through a sock in 7, 8 days, but that is like, kids go to bed, everybody's asleep. I'm knitting for 2 hours afterwards. Um, you know, the weekend, kids are doing soccer. I'm sitting at soccer practice. I'm knitting on a sock. So like, that where it's like most of my personal individual free time. That's when I can get a sock done that quickly. But otherwise, I don't think I'm a slow knitter, but some people, the speed that they go at, I'm just amazed at how fast they're able to go at it and get things done. And so when she said she does some things for instant gratification, I was like, knitting, I really have to, in order for me to really love knitting, I have to love the process, because if I didn't love the process, there's certainly no instant gratification for me where I can just sit down and knit something in an evening. So what time zone are you from, Andrea? Eastern time. Okay, yeah. Um, so it's a little bit later for you then. I was thinking, I was going to scope tonight. And, it's one of those things where, as thank you for being here, by the way. So I have somebody to kind of scope with, because the reality is you don't have anybody to talk to, you know. Oh yeah, same with us. Yeah, same with our kids. Um, Tomorrow is my split day of my week. So, I said I work both in a clinic and then I'm also at a university. And so tomorrow is a split day for me. And so in the morning I'm at the university, in the afternoon I'm in the clinic, and I'm going to be working from home in the morning. So I kind of feel like I have, a little freer evening versus having to get up early in the morning. So yeah. So what knitters are you? What knitters are you fan of? What podcasts or Periscope, or who do you follow usually? One scoper that I really enjoy listening to. Have you ever heard of Sue Stokes? She's Knit24. Have you followed her or done any of or seen her podcast? Or Periscopes? She periscopes about every morning during the weekdays. She is like, oh man, I tell you, look her. She is like a ray of sunshine every single morning. Um, she usually she also does some dyeing. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, what I usually do is, because she's usually on about the time that I'm getting the kids up and out the door, because my wife goes in really early, and so usually I have the morning routine, and so sometimes I have to wait until like lunch break. Um, yeah, she's yeah. Wait, yeah. You think you've heard of her? She started a dyeing business called Legacy Knits LLC, and I'll tell you, her yarn sells out in like record time. She'll she'll post it on a Saturday, and like within 5 minutes, it'll all be sold. And I think it's partly because people like what she puts out. Yeah, people like what she puts out, and then she has a pretty significant following. I know. One day I went on there because I was thinking, you know what, I'm gonna get some of this yarn, because it's kind of, I just to support her and things like that, and like I was there 18 minutes after the posting date or the posting time, and people were posting like 5 minutes after the start time saying, "Ah, shucks, I missed out," and I was like, "Holy cow!" And I've tried to catch her multiple other times, and I've never gotten to buy a skein of her yarn. Now I don't know how many skeins she puts out, but I think she puts out. I mean, like I think she posts probably because the way that I mean she'll have it all set up in a pile before she goes to post on Etsy that it's up. And I mean, there's got to be at least 20, 25 skeins, it seems like, each time she does it. So she's selling out really quickly, which is, good for her. Um, so what do you mostly design, Andrea? I should go, I'll look up your, your Ravelry. Are you on Ravelry? Is that where you post most of your designs? Mostly sweaters? Mostly women's sweaters, or mostly like just kind of a mixture of the two? Or what do you like to design with them? A lot for kids. Okay. Yeah. I have not gone down the sweater route. Um, it's one of those things where I want to, but I'm a little bit kind of on the wow, can I tackle that kind of, you know what I mean? I'm a stockier gentleman, so anything that I would knit for me, I'd have to buy like 2,000 to 3,000 grams of yarn. So my first one would definitely be from Knit Picks, I'm thinking. So just to get the discount, or not the discount, but the cheaper, less expensive yarn. I shouldn't. Yeah, the less expensive yarn. Um, and then if I do an okay job with it, then I may move up to, you know, gosh, I don't think I'd ever do Madeline Tosh just because it's super expensive. Well, I shouldn't say super expensive. It's in the range of a lot of the stuff I end up buying, but to buy that much in that larger quantity, yeah, yeah. So to knit him a sweater, it's too big. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too is, I've thought about like each year I knit my kids. So I say each year, but like I said, last Christmas was my first Christmas, so this is my second Christmas. So last Christmas I knit my kids teddy bears. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Your kids, yeah, much smaller, so it's easier to knit them up. Um, each year I knit my kids a teddy bear, and gosh, none of them are down here right now. So, the teddy bears. Um, but have you seen the teddy bear that saved me? Have you seen that one on Ravelry? I knit all three of them that one, and then this year I'm knitting them all puppies. So uh, my goal is to get it done by Christmas. So, but with all the other knitting, I'm sitting here. I knit those hats. Yeah, I knit those hats, and it, I knit them real quick, and I was just like, I don't know. Christmas knitting, I like to knit for other people at Christmas, but I wait too long. I should start it in January. So that way I'm not feeling like all I'm doing is Christmas knitting. Do you do much for Christmas with knitting? Do you do much Christmas knitting? Not at all. Good for you. So most of your knitting is with your business or for family. I used to, but it's just too much now. Yeah. with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old, I totally, I get it. You know, um, isn't it funny how parenting, you want to provide for your kids? Yeah, you want to provide for your kids. You want to give them a happy environment to grow up in, um, and it ends up being so much where you focus on right. That's what I'm getting to. um, it's you end up focusing so much on them that you miss the you. No, no, no. Yeah, no. No, no, that's exactly where I was going, and I meant it, and so I have this tendency to be, yeah, that's exactly where I was going. I was going to the point where it becomes so much where your focus is on them that the focus on you just gets, pushed to the wayside, and to be honest with you, that's where I started knitting. I was not a knitter, up until a year ago, August. I started knitting on August 1st, and that is because you know, I'm a hard worker in what I do work wise. I try to be a good dad, try to be a good husband, but it just I needed some me time, and with looking for hobbies, like it's funny because I'm a what is the word? When my wife and I met, I am a what is the word? I'm a hobbyaholic, where where I liked painting. I liked a lot of different things, and my wife was like, "You need to simmer down on purchasing all the hobby stuff," and that was like a long time ago, right? So then we had kids, and well, I'd simmer down on the hobbies, um, and because I have a creative side to myself that I like to express, and so with the kids, it kind of went out the back, to the wayside. And then I was like, I'd like a hobby again. So I looked into some different things. I looked into whittling, and the reality with whittling is that, you can cut yourself really easily, and I kind of that doesn't work too well in my profession, to be cutting up your fingers. Um, B, the wood shavings, you just can't do it anywhere you go. Then woodworking is another thing. I have a really good friend who does woodworking, but when you look at woodworking, the reality is that the equipment is very expensive. The wood to actually do woodworking is also very expensive. I mean, it's like you buy these planks of wood, and by the time you're done buying the supplies, I mean, it gets very expensive, and then it doesn't travel. And the reality is I don't have the convenience to lock myself up in a garage for 8 hours in a day on a weekend and work on a hobby, And so I'd been thinking about trying the knitting route. A family member had passed away, and that family member used to knit like washcloths and things like that. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool to kind of pick that up and knit some washcloths for the family and stuff. So I started with some washcloths and watched a YouTube video, and then and my first one, I actually have them over here because this is kind of my area of where I keep my kind of crafty stuff, in the house. But my first washcloth, you want to see it? I don't want to bore you. Okay. Um, my first washcloth, this is a square, believe it or not. This is a square. So you see that? This is my first washcloth. So, so I was like, all right, well, you know what? That not too bad. It's a square, kinda, not really, but still, I had made something. And so I was like, well, let's try another one. So I then made, was it this one? Yes, I decided to go small, and I made this one, right? And you can see the nice hole there, but it's more square. And so then I went and I made this one here, and that one is the last one I did when I said okay, it's time to go and go. So what I did was I took my daughter to the store, and I let her pick out a yarn and said, "What would you like a scarf made out of?" Because going from washcloth to scarf in a garter stitch isn't too crazy. So and so we went to the store, and um, and she picked out this purple kind of hand spun lion brand yarn, and I started knitting her a scarf, and that was going really well. And so then I took my sons to the store one at a time. I took them each to the store and let them pick out the color scarf that they wanted. And let's see, one of them, where did Noah's go? Anyway, all in all, I knit them, let them each pick out their colored scarf that they wanted, and knit them those, and then just kind of kept going from there and just went wild with it. So yeah, but so yeah. Well, does anybody have any? There's three people here. It looks like. Does anybody have any questions for me? I don't know how this. Andrea, is this? Am I doing this Periscope thing right? Because I've seen you do it. You do a great job. You know. I guess there's at some point. Okay. All right. Thanks. You know. The other thing. So the other thing too. Um, so do you listen to much podcasts or anything like that? Do you? It's hard because you feel like you're talking to no one. In a way I do, but Andrea, to be honest with you, because you've Periscoped before, and I've seen your Periscope, and I like there's a little icon in the bottom of and you can't even tell like who it is. It's so small, but to be honest with you, since I've seen you Periscope, it's making it a lot easier because I feel like I'm talking to somebody that I've actually had talk back to me in a prior Periscope. Um, so it actually is working pretty well for me that you. I mean, it's great that you're here. You know. Now, as for the controls, yeah. As for the controls, I have no idea how these things work. Um, Other than, let's see, let's move that back there. Other than there's, okay, okay. Anyway, I won't mess with those. Oh yeah, yeah. So do you go to any of the fiber festivals or anything like that? Um, Everybody was talking about Rhinebeck recently over on the East Coast, and that was a big one. Um, you tried to? Did you go to Rhinebeck then? Have you been in previous years? Because I tell you, living in Iowa, you're smack dab in the center. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Is it as much fun as everybody made it out to be? Because it seemed like everybody was just having a blast, and it's kind of hard to. Yeah, I think what I need to do is some year I need to just bite the bullet, and yeah, I need to bite the bullet some year and just go out and experience it. I think. Uh, I go to local fiber festivals here in Iowa. Um, but to be honest, there's one of the other things I just told you about with regards to work and family and everything like that. But another thing is I've been working on my PhD for the past 4 years. And um, so I have to travel, and I've had to travel to Florida multiple times in a year to go take care of that. So that's pretty much been my travel expenses. Yeah, I just took my comprehensive exam almost 4 weeks ago, and we're still waiting to find out. But I do have my dissertation all planned out from an idea paper and a committee and everything. Did you really? You started yours? Really? Awesome. Oh my gosh, we need to connect then because I think it's good to be in a community of people who have gone through it and people who are going through it. Good for you. You go, you. That's awesome. What's your area of study? What's your focus? Isn't that ironic? Because to be honest with you, I was not going to bring that up. Educational psych. That's awesome. You know why I think that's awesome? Um, so I just told you that I'm a pediatric certified specialist. But one of my areas, play theories in young children. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Wow, isn't this funny that we've connected? Because one of the big things about my area of is that I teach also in the university, but um the motivation behind it, the oh my gosh, we should connect because that is so funny that first of all, I was not going to even bring up the whole PhD thing because you know how it goes. It's like it's one more commitment that you have that the entire time you're kind of shaking in your boots as to how can I make all my commitments. And I'll tell you, you can make it work. It's just you have to be very focused with what is the end goal and what is important in life. You know what I mean? Um, that's I think a big thing. Gosh, I mean, yeah. That's so funny that I would have even brought that up because to be honest with you, that's something that I wasn't thinking I was going to bring up, but somehow it snuck out with the whole East Coast thing and why I travel to the East Coast and can't go to Rhinebeck. But um, but I tell you, so do you have a cohort of students that you're going through this with then? No, unfortunately, yeah. The program I go through, it's a hybrid program. And so it's partially where, because I'm not a full-time student, yeah. Um, yeah, the program that I was going, the same here. Although I think they kind of, it's funny because in PhD world, they kind of classify you differently based on the content and I don't know, it just, because there's been times when I've been a full-time student because I was in three classes. Um, And I tell you, that is crazy taking three classes and working full time and having a family. Pretty much, I knew that I would sleep midnight to six, and I got really used to being tired and reminding myself when I was tired that there are things that are important in life, and that if I start getting frustrated with my kids, and by all means, it happens, but when I started getting frustrated with my kids because of something, or I had to always kind of recheck myself and go, what's really going on here, and are my expectations out of line with what they really can do as their age? You know what I mean? Um, and then I also had to think about the long term piece of it of how I really wanted my kids to be shaped around me versus in the sense of I wanted them to remember me being not miserable and tired because I'm in this program of PhD world, but where they remembered, oh yeah, Dad took us to the park, and when they get older, and I think I navigated that. I feel like I navigated that successfully, but it took a very conscientious effort, and being, and I'll tell you, I think it's great that you're doing it. I also will say though that I think that naturally, inherently, and I know moms, I mean, dads play a big role, but moms play a significant role, and so they're so like the demand that I had for my kids, you might have more demand from your kids. That's all I'm saying with that. I think it's great that you're doing it because that's a great growth opportunity for you, But at the same time, if it feels stressful to you and you feel like you have more stress than maybe some other people do, it might actually be the case. Because I'll tell you, like for instance, just now, I'm a very involved dad. My boy would not go to sleep until his mom got in there. I mean, that was just plain and simple. And it's just the way that kids are, you know. So that's the case. And of course, it's all roles too. I run on a high level of stress all the freaking time. Yeah, I have a friend who we talked about this very thing about the running on a high level of stress. First of all, knitting helps with that. That is huge for me. I mean, that's the thing. That's the reason why I started knitting was because it is like um, it's not quite a glass of wine, but you get what I mean.